Ah!
You might want to turn that heater off because that is pumping heat straight up into that.
Is that right, Ché?
Yeah. Boom, Crook Productions. So, our first little podcast as just a team. If you've seen our last podcast, the one with Ozzy, that's a little bit of what we've got to come. But this little segment, we're in the studio, just me and Ash right now. If you don't know, Ash is the other artist here at Crooks. So if you're not familiar with us, we are a tattoo studio based in Bristol, UK. It's just myself and Ash and our apprentice Kyle at the moment. We've both been tattooing about 10 years. We were just speaking now about the way that we come up, the way that we started, and how we didn't have the opportunity to go straight into a shop and learn properly. So we both basically found our stuff off the internet and just said, we like tattooing, this is what we want to do, and we're going to do it. And the industry's opened up a little bit more nowadays. So our content is all about basically trying to provide a little bit of value for all of these people that are trying to find their feet in the industry without the support of a shop or an artist to take them under their wing. This is basically a platform for you to, get a little look into our minds, the way that we work, our mindset works, the things that we've learned, our lessons and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, even if you're a client, we're trying to give you some value and an inside look into the tattoo industry and the way that we work. So Ash is pretty similar to me in the way that we've just picked up our machines, got going.
Yep.
And it's trial and error pretty much.
It was.
Literally trial and error.
Thanks to all the people, guinea pigs that was willing for us to start on.
Plenty of mates willing to
That's
be
necessary.
that guinea pig.
Yeah.
How long were you tattooing at home before you made it into a studio?
I did my first tattoo just before I turned 17, and then I think I found a studio about a year after that. So that was a good solid year before I even knew. I was going to say about the pros and cons of starting up yourself and not having the pro was for me is that I had to start, I had to do this. I need to jump into this, studio or not. But then obviously the cons of it was I didn't know what the fucking clue I was doing. Yeah. And that's the dangerous part of it. Yeah. But without doing that first off, then I wouldn't probably be here now, or may have found it. But it was 8 or 9 months before I searched for an apprenticeship. Local studios are super friendly, but it was sorry, we can't take any apprentices on at the minute, which is it's a needle in a fucking haystack, isn't it? 1 in a million chance getting an apprenticeship. So yeah, it was basically fucking do it or don't do it. So that was my only option. I felt that I had anyway.
That's why I don't really blame when people do that. I did it the same way. I understand that's the way it works.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, I think we might have probably been in the first we probably weren't in the same sort of way, because Ozzy said he did the same shit, isn't it? 35 years ago. I guess it's been happening a long time.
It was
The only thing that I'm noticing, I guess, nowadays is the fact that so many more studios are opening up. It's becoming saturated in that way, and I definitely see less experience in artists that are opening these studios.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of information. Fair enough, if you've only been tattooing 2 years, you want to go and open up a studio and get yourself a team. Fair enough, but I think there's a lot of information that has been
100%.
held back because people have been doing it us. It's only the fact that I ever went into a studio that I learned things properly. If I stayed on my own for 2 years and then opened my own studio, I feel like my career would have just been a mess if I. It was going into a studio and seeing the way that other people.
I've been saying to you, so I've been tattooing since first tattoo just before I turned 17, and I turned 26 2 weeks ago. And then coming into here at Savannah, I learned every studio I've gone into is just progression. Learning from other artists, especially, is so fucking important. But then coming into here and talking about you, obviously you being around the world and stuff like that, and learning from some of the fucking best artists in the world and bringing that knowledge, I'm just fuck. It's just literally starting over, and I'm 9 years in the game, and it's I'm starting over again. Yeah. So it's understand fully that you need to kind of pick yourself up and you need to get out there and get your own studio or whatever, but there's pros and cons to it of it's And the first time of coming out of, so I was tattooing for a year when I started, and then when I finally got into kind of an apprenticeship, what I learned from the health and safety and about like bloodborne pathogens and everything like that, and like sterilization, cross-contamination, I was like, fuck, I could have fucked some people up.
Yeah, for sure,
That's the most important thing of like, that stuff might get lost when you're kind of with people that aren't as educated, like are going to open up their own shops and stuff like that. There's so much to fucking learn about that before you do so.
Yeah. I think at the moment, if it kept going the way that it's going, I think more people are going to open up studios with even less and less knowledge, and yeah, maybe it's just going to become saturated, and maybe quality is going to get lost again. I don't. It's funny to see what might happen. I just feel like having that information out there, it's always been such like a negative thing, hasn't it? Because like back in the day, like, obviously with Ozzy's podcast, we spoke about it, how back then there was less people getting tattooed, less tattoo artists, less of the pie to go around, so it was more of a struggle fighting for it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, things have got so popular, there's plenty to go around, but...
And it's more, and having said that, it's more of a case of like, you want to like, it's not like fucking unite the people, but it's like bring the industry closer together. People can share all of their, experiences, like what you have with me and how much I've learned, even being in it 9 years, and it's just like uniting people together. So like, okay, this is not what you should do, but this is kind of like what not to do. I think is more important that I've learned anyway.
I think being super selfish with it isn't necessarily the right way to go. I understand why people did it because it was necessary back at the time.
It was, yeah.
But
like me and you had to do it. It was necessary then.
But we're living in a day and age where like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of these different things are available. Loads more people are tattooing now because of Pinterest
because
and
of
all
that.
these different things. And I think like as an industry, our mindset at how to handle new people coming into the industry hasn't changed with the times. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's become so saturated. Yeah. And that's the whole point that people decided to not share knowledge, was because there wasn't so much to go around. It was considered way more sacred. You had to put way more time in. Because it's become like as saturated as it has now, I think there definitely needs to be more of like an open platform to share. Individuals aren't doing it.
The same thing can be happening. Like if I started up at home, or then I had no shop experience, or like I didn't work under anyone, and then I went up and opened up my own studio. It's the same thing. That knowledge is still being lost, which is like, it just needs like a handout and just being like, hey man, I'm opening up this shop. I haven't really. And it's like, yeah, cool. Like I'm willing to teach you things. I'm willing to like to even like the basics of fucking like cross contamination and stuff, like the health and safety side of it is so fucking important. I think it does need to be put out there. It needs to be valued, and it needs to be like a certain kind of starting point or ground point for artists to learn off of before you even go picking up a machine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like our old apprentice at one of the other shops, he probably watched us tattoo for I don't know, maybe like 6 months before he picked up a machine, Regan. And then by the time he was actually lining and putting in black, he watched the way that we did everything, the variables, the way that the machine was running. Yeah. And by the time that he put needle to skin, it was just going in, like, aside from getting used to a tattoo machine shaking in your hand, everything looked like not like an apprentice's tattoo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the value of knowledge and having someone under your wing. And everything that I taught Regan, like I'd say 95% of the information that I shared, I can share online with people through podcasts, live videos, anything, and like it's not going to damage the industry. If somebody's going to pick up a machine, they're going to do it like we did it. When that knowledge wasn't about, and I don't think just because sharing information, it's not going to make someone say, "I can pick up a tattoo machine." If anything, we're exposing how hard it actually is when you get into it.
Yeah.
If anything, if you don't really love it, hopefully the stuff that we're saying is going to put you off because it is tough.
Yeah.
The number one thing, if you don't love it, you're not going to stick around for the journey to get going.
I always, like, people say it's like, about, you're lucky to have this job, and I'm like, man, it's not even, it's a fucking lifestyle. You got to live and breathe it. It's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's like, first thing I do when I wake up, I'm looking at Instagram, looking at inspiration for the day, which even makes me not want to get out of bed or gets me ready for it. Especially like Steve Butcher, I'm like, fuck you, I'm not doing this anymore. It's a shit. But it's it's one of the two. You got to live and breathe it. Otherwise, it just you won't last at all. Not that you won't last. It's like you just wouldn't progress yourself. And I think if you do something like this, that it's so much hardship and so much like dedication it takes. If you're not progressing within myself, I feel anyway, then I feel stuck and I won't want to kind of do it anyway.
It is. It's super easy to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we did an interview with Matt James, a great black and grey artist, and he talked about burnout, how to deal with.
That was really cool.
Yeah,
really
like
cool.
creative flow, and you've got like a lack of creativity. Like, as an artist, you want to be like your own biggest fan. You want to be the coolest person. Like, you do everything that you think is cool, but at the same time, you're the most critical person of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to like be all of those different people and the person putting out the artwork.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure to maintain.
That's
just, you can't feel bad.
That's
about
the thing. That's the thing about kind of if you're that's a double like a con to like kind of like open up your own shop first off, and it's like
it's a baby.
And it's like, especially if you've got no one there for guidance. Like just the other day, like it was like I had Tom in for that stomach piece. And I was like, this is really cool, but I was like, yeah, something's a little bit missing. And you're like, oh man, like church window look cool out there. And you're like, yeah, it would. And then you do it, and it's like you need like stimulants, and you need like other people around you to like push you, show you like some stuff. And
it's the same reason that going into a studio as an unexperienced apprentice helps. You just feed off of energy. You learn information, you pick up, and I think that's probably the biggest shame about the industry today is people are still in the mindset of you can't share because. It's like, why? Because old school ways, old school tendencies, you know, that it doesn't exist anymore. But share. Like, what damage is sharing information going to do now?
But like you said, with speaking to Ozzy, it was like you understand that. Like they had to fight for that fucking knowledge. Like it was different back then. But now with you know, it's like, if this motherfucker's not going to show me something, I'm just going to go on the internet or I'm going to ask someone else.
They did it because they didn't want to saturate the tattoo industry. They didn't want to try and bring in more artists because not so many people were getting tattooed. Like, everyone's the amount of people getting tattooed are going up. So obviously things become more saturated.
1 in 3 in the UK and the third biggest growing industry in the UK, the tattoo industry. So it's happening.
I get why people don't like it. Like, don't get me wrong. When I see someone put up a sick tattoo, like it scares the shit out of me. Like some people, I'm like, why do I even do black and grey realism? Because some people are killing it so good.
Yeah.
I'm like shit. But then that's why I think you got to find your own way, your own path. Just become like what you think. But
then you need tools to do that, which in turn again is going back to working with people and working under someone or learning from people or willing to learn from people. Because I was doing that when I was working on my own. I was just like, the main thing was Ryan Evans. And I was like, I bought the same machine as Ryan Evans. I was like trying the same inks as Ryan Evans. I was like, why can't I tattoo like Ryan Evans? It's like, because I'm not Ryan Evans. Like, but it's so hard when you're on your own, in your own mind, your own fucking worst critic, trying to find what you want to do. You can't. You need inspiration from other people, other artists, you know, people around you, and like, you know, talks like this and stuff that's the importance of it, I think. And I think it's super important, which any artist should. Even if you've been in a studio, you know, like been in the same studio for a long time, like kind of go out, do conventions, talk to people, guest spot, you know, just go to different parts of wherever you want to go. It's just communication, sharing knowledge. I think it's just fucking super important.
When I was a young artist, I think the biggest thing that helped me was going to conventions. Because when I went to London convention, I met people like Crooks, all of these different people, and that was like my foot in the door of this like different league of tattooing, where I just saw like they took tattooing, you know, seriously. Like these people genuinely viewed tattooing as like sacred, a very strict, like, you know, discipline, a lifestyle. They just loved it differently than, you know, shit that I had seen before. And then you meet these people at different conventions, you keep seeing them, they keep in contact with you. They might not give you the follow, but some of these people are still watching. Because one time, I remember about a year after meeting Chris, he put up, Chris is a Japanese artist, he's from Belfast, but he does just some crazy near-traditional Japanese stuff, super colourful. And as much as I do realism, I love Japanese work. And to go and watch Chris work and be around him, like, I just loved it. And he was looking for a black and grey artist. This was back in like 2013. I was 21, and he had commented on one of my pictures on Instagram saying, "I'm looking for a black and grey artist." And I'm like, "Holy shit! How does he find my Instagram and like commented, I can't believe it. And I messaged back
And
saying,
it's like a god as well, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
it's
I'm like,
fuck.
holy shit.
Yeah,
He acknowledged me.
Yeah.
And then I wrote back saying, you know, like, I saw you looking for an artist, but I didn't think I'd make it, so I didn't bother emailing. He's like, nah, email. And he just said, yeah, you've got it if you want it. And I think that's all because I just went to a tattoo convention.
Yeah.
I loved it. He saw I was about it.
Yeah.
And when he was looking for that black and grey guy, I was that black and grey guy hovering around, you know what I mean? And that put me into a pattern of like, you've got to be out there in the field, like working. Even if no one's seeing you, this is why you have to love it, because it's the shit you do when no one's watching that really makes a difference. And it's like, no one's watching me go to tattoo conventions. I'm doing it, having these conversations, putting myself out there, and all you need is a spark for a fire.
And do you know what it is as well? It's funny because I don't know if it's the way that I know about kind of like the way the industry used to be or whatever, and you're still a bit hesitant, like, do people want you asking questions about their work? Are they going to like keep it back to like, you know, to themselves? Like, am I being like too harsh, like a young kid kind of just like asking questions like, do you know what I mean? Motherfucker, like, I've done years like that. But mate, my first ever convention was Galway, thanks to Adele Walsh, and I went over there, first ever convention, and Bob Torrell is one of the sole reasons why I pursued tattooing. He was the second artist I ever seen doing black and grey realism. I was like, what the fuck, you can do that with tattooing? First ever convention, walk in there, Bob Torrell's there, and I'm watching him fucking like a little girl, and just like, shit, like, that's Bob Torrell. And then we went outside, and then he acknowledged one of my tattoos that I'd done on Rowan. And he was like, tapped his mate, like, yo, take a look at that. And I was just like, fucking, yeah, good. And then, like, we're talking about, like, well, fast forward to 5:30 in the morning, he finally finished his tattooing, and we're having a beer talking, and he's just a guy. And he was, like, giving me information. He was saying, like, how, like, lucky we are to kind of be, like, in, like, how we can progress our work nowadays. Again, like with meeting Ash Lewis there as well, I was just like, he's like, yeah, let me like take your Instagram shot. I'm just like, what the fuck, like fanboying. But it's just people, and then like the next year that you go, like people be shaking your hand, like these people that you're looking up to, they're in the same thing as you are, on the same path, same grind. They understand it, and it's like asking about it and sharing knowledge is what they all seem to be about. Which again refers back to, if you're putting it out at a convention, talking to people face to face, or if you're putting it out online and giving people this information, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, I think interacting with those other people is so important to take you to the next level. Because even if you're not willing to travel around and go to different corners of the world, there's people that have, and you can catch up, like saying, catch up with these people at certain points, and people do share information. And I think that's the only way to progress. Put yourself around other people. You know, again, when we interviewed Matt James, he said he works on his own, but purely because that forces him to spend so much time traveling and spend, you know, like a month in LA or New Zealand or something like that. Yeah. And I think that's what, if you've seen Matt, I don't know how long you've followed Matt's work, but seeing his work progress over like 10 years.
Probably since that time, he was one of the first black and grey artists that I was following, following his work.
And yeah, I just see the change and the influence, but that's the power of both. As an individual, you take all of these different ideas from here and there. Like I said about Ryan Evans' machine, and you can use all that same stuff, but everything that happens inside you, the way that your mind ticks, is like is the majority of the finished product and the result.
Yeah, for sure.
I think getting into people's minds is what is the game changer. I think that's definitely the game changer.
Yeah. 20 minutes.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there. We're going to keep this one nice and short. If you're an apprentice, a young artist, and you're looking for that extra little boost, that any answers to your questions, shout us. We are on YouTube. Search Crook's Tattoo Studio, at Crook's Tattoo Studio on Instagram and Facebook too. Drop us a DM, any message, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and we are going to see you soon.
And our door's always open as well.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Peace.
Happy days.
Yes.